Chapter 3. The Bridge of Sighs. Gabriel's family moved to Savannah in the summer of 2019, the day after he graduated from high school. He was 18 years old, in a strange town, and didn't have a car or any place to be. His family lived in a 3-bedroom brick rancher very close to the Savannah River, and the odor of decayed organic matter and hydrogen sulfide permeated the coastline during each low tide. It was something that he never became used to. He looked forward to his future and the possibilities connected to the freedoms and independence of adulthood. Most of all, he looked forward to getting a job and moving out. Growing up, his mother gave him verbal affirmations of affection. At the same time, his narcissistic and sadistic stepfather negated her kindness with egregious physical abuse and contemptuous words spoken through gritted teeth. The man would grab handfuls of skin on the 5-year-old's chest, twisting it as hard as possible until his fingers fatigued, peppering his face with spittle as he demeaned the child and tore at Gabriel's psyche. "You aren't good enough. You aren't smart enough. You will fail at whatever you do in life because you are shit." The hemorrhaged tissue and bruises on the boy's chest and arms reinforced that notion, as no other reason could justify that level of cruelty unless it was true. Gabriel's mother coped with her son's egregious abuse through compartmentalization and reinforcing the false narrative that being a provider was the marker of parental competency. Gabriel was sea foam brought to the shore by ocean currents and wind. Beached and burning, he sat under an unforgiving sun before being pulled back into the surf, only to repeat the process. He was the blindfolded child spun around during a pin-the-tail on the donkey game, deliberately robbed of any sense of direction. While Gabriel's peers focused on taking those daily steps toward reaching their life and career aspirations, his energy focused on navigating the battlefield of his home life and avoiding his warden's gaze. Without the hope of rescue, Gabriel turned inward and learned to exist in a deep place in his psyche, the same place prisoners of war create to survive their captivity, deprivation, and torture. It's the 0-mile marker, where the mind runs out of road. It's the place where serial killers are born. Despite years of prayer, God never delivered Gabriel from his torment. A priest once cited Deuteronomy 32:35 during a Catholic Mass the false practitioners had forced him to attend. "Vengeance is mine, and recompense for the time when their foot shall slip. For the day of their calamity is at hand, and their doom comes swiftly." Gabriel questioned the timeliness of God's words.
"Doom comes swiftly. How soon is that? How long must I wait for them to die before I am freed from my hell?"
Gabriel recognized his captor's hypocrisy early on, and theorized that vengeance was the child of failed justice. Gabriel's mother carried a Bible to church, serving as an accoutrement rather than a reference of faith. She had earmarked a passage in Proverbs, "Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it." 13 years of enablement and abuse would provide a modern-day parallel to the verse. By the time Gabriel reached the age of 18, he had become what they had groomed him to be, a weapon of wrath and reprisal. The family had only lived in the home a month before Gabriel began hearing the voice. He was lying between consciousness and sleep when a female voice whispered his name. It was soft and clear, and he answered it, believing it to be his mother. Like most teens, Gabriel yelled back at her to acknowledge her summons, rather than getting up to look for her. He lay there waiting for his mother's response, but nothing. His bedroom door was closed, so he yelled louder,
"What, Mom?"
He listened closely for her to answer, but there was only silence. He got out of bed to search for her, and after a quick walk-through of the house and a glance at the empty driveway, he realized that he was alone. He rationalized that he may have just been between sleep states when he heard the voice and had forgotten about the incident by the end of the day. However, as time passed, Gabriel began experiencing the same occurrence. He considered the possibility that he might have schizophrenia, but realized the voice had only occurred when he was at home. The voice didn't tell him to do anything. It only said his name. While the voice was new, it wasn't the only thing he couldn't explain. Gabriel had performed a series of precognitive predictions through the years, occurring so frequently that it became trivialized and no more remarkable than a child burping the vowels or making fart noises in their armpit. One typical Sunday afternoon, Gabriel was mowing the yard while listening to music on a pair of studio headphones. Mowing the grass in the front yard was straightforward, involving parallel back and forth motions over time. However, the backyard was a minefield of dog dirt and patches of powdered dust where the grass wouldn't grow. Dog dirt would spread like a fertilizer cart, spitting it in a 6-foot radius, like batter from a mixer lifted too soon. The dust produced a black fog, showering his bare legs with gravel. Despite his headphones and the noise created by the mower, Gabriel heard a voice as clear as day. "Gabriel." This time, the voice repeated itself multiple times, increasing in speed. Additional voices joined the others in succession, chanting Gabriel's name before stopping abruptly. Frustrated, Gabriel shut off the mower, removed his headphones and yelled,
"What?"
Gabriel felt violated this time and became upset, channeling his anger directly to the source of the voices.
"Tell me what you want or leave me the hell alone."
The voice had made a deliberate attempt to communicate with him, and Gabriel hoped that this message or a request would finally be conveyed. He wiped the sweat from his forehead while waiting for a response, but there was no answer. A few weeks passed, and Gabriel realized that he hadn't heard the voice following the last incident, theorizing that the voice might have stopped due to his rebuff. If it had been a ghost, if they exist, perhaps communication had to be mutually accepted. Maybe his statement had closed the door on that possibility. All the better. Gabriel loved the escape movies provided, which seemed like the best place to look for a job. The Terrace Theatre was Savannah's last holdout to modernisation and housed 2 auditoriums, seating 350 patrons per screen. The Art Deco Theatre had a warmth and soul that drew people to it, and the employees took great pride in working there. Ticket tearing and trash collecting were Gabriel's primary duties, but he was also required to eject problematic customers for being too loud, bringing alcohol into the theatre, or jumping from one auditorium to the next to see 2 movies for the price of one. It amazed Hunter that people caught breaking the rules always directed their anger at him, rather than feeling any sense of shame or taking any responsibility for their actions. It reminded him of something his grandfather had once said. The fox condemns the trap, not himself. He never understood the logic or value of self-delusion. Gabriel loved working at the theatre, and his co-workers became the family he longed for as a child. They were all very close and often hung out after their shifts ended to attend private showings. The theatre manager, Hayden, and Gabriel were seated in the lobby following one of these late-night viewings after everyone had gone home. They shared stories about the tricks customers used to gain free admittance when an icy chill passed through Gabriel's body as if to say, "I am here." Hayden saw a sudden change come over Gabriel's face.
"What's wrong?"
Gabriel shook off the chill.
It felt as if something just touched me.
A second later, the pipes in the entire building began to shake violently, seeming to push the nails out of the drywall that held the gypsum panels in place. This continued for several seconds before it stopped. The men stared at each other, questioning what might have caused the noise when they heard the loud groan of a metal door open and slam shut in the projector room above them. They were anticipating the next act, but the theatre fell silent. Their relief was short-lived when Hayden realised they couldn't leave without ensuring the theatre was empty, and he expected Gabriel to join him for the task. Hayden had a 38 Saturday night special he carried for night deposits and just-in-case scenarios. However, this gave Gabriel little comfort as Hayden stood 4 feet behind him. Gabriel picked up a broom handle from a nearby closet and stood in front of the door leading up to the projector room. The intuition that Gabriel had learned to rely on now filled him with dread. It wasn't fear, but a warning, "Don't open the door." He felt that if something were going to happen, it would happen to him. Assuring Gabriel he would be right behind him, Hayden inserted his key into the lock and slowly opened the door. With a flood of adrenaline, Gabriel screamed,
Come on, motherfucker!
to communicate that he was prepared to go face to face with whoever it was. Gabriel's sudden outburst startled Hayden, and he carelessly aimed his gun in Gabriel's direction. Realizing this, Hayden lowered his weapon back to his side. Adrenaline took over, pushing Gabriel up the dark, bending stairwell. He detected a pungent ozone odor as he reached the top of the stairs and froze. Standing some 20 feet from him was a large, dark, humanoid figure. The hallway was too dark to make out any other features, but Gabriel could make out a body, arms, and distinct white eyes. He didn't know what to do and prayed that Hayden wouldn't say anything that might draw the figure's attention toward him. The figure nodded at Gabriel and then spoke to him in an intense, dry, hollow voice. Gabriel. It was the last thing he wanted to hear it say, and he couldn't move. The dark mass shifted slightly before saying his name a second time. Gabriel. After repeating Gabriel's name, the figure faded into the surrounding shadows. The silence made Hayden uneasy.
What is it? Do you see anything?
Gabriel wanted to move, but his muscles refused to obey. He answered back to pacify Hayden.
I'm just letting my eyes adjust to the dark.
Reassured, Hayden climbed the remaining stairs and began searching the rooms. Gabriel wished Hayden had also seen the shadow and heard its voice because it would have validated all the paranormal events he had ever experienced. They went room by room until they were satisfied that they were alone. Afterward, Hayden offered Gabriel a ride home, and they talked about their experience during the drive. Hayden theorized that the sounds they had heard had been caused by water hammer and dismissed the experience altogether. Gabriel agreed with Hayden's explanation, knowing he couldn't tell him the truth about what he had seen because Hayden wouldn't understand. Copyright C 2022 by Killer Ravens Publishing LLC. All rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced, distributed or transmitted in any form or by any means, including photocopying, recording, or other electronic or mechanical methods, or by any information storage and retrieval system, without the prior written permission of the publisher, except in the case of very brief quotations embodied in critical reviews and certain other non-commercial uses permitted by copyright law. Disclaimer. This is a work of fiction. Names, characters, business, events, and incidents are the products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. The opinions expressed are those of the characters and should not be confused with the author's views.